Hey, if you guys can hear me, there is no audio on your live stream video. You need to uncheck your microphone box.
All right. Get this started. Heavenly Father, be it your will that we do the right things for the people of Alcona County. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Move on. Roll call.
Ma.
Here.
Jackie.
Here.
Brumman. Here. Johnston is absent.
Yes, get along here today.
Yes.
Here. Martin Steve. Sure. I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from May 3rd. Second. Moved and seconded. Any questions, comments, concerns? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. I need to add to the agenda, under presentations, Julie Darton from MSU is here to present the annual report. She will come in after the opioid committee funding request. Okay, well, we can address that as we approach. We will start with public comment, limited to 3 minutes per person. Please identify yourself and your township. Yes, sir.
Okay. Hi, I'm Joe Lukashevich from Greenbush Township, and I've been kind of keeping an eye on the correspondence before the board after the last couple of meetings. And I see there's an increasing number of resolutions from other counties coming before you to, I presume, to try to encourage you to bring up and address. And specifically, I see on the agenda today, there's the correspondence from Elder County. And I see it as being growing pressure to pass similar resolutions here in Alcona. And I know Gary even submitted a letter a while back, asked, whatever his intent was. Anyway, the elder resolutions, like all the others around the state, and there are a handful, oppose all firearms control legislation, including popular red flag laws. I don't get it. Why would they not want to support that? Even though many of the NRA members support red flag laws. Declared Second Amendment sanctuary counties gives county sheriffs and their county prosecutors sole discretion to not enforce gun laws they deem unconstitutional. They further agreed to not authorize or appropriate funds to enforce certain gun laws. So these resolutions are really a slippery slope the way I look at it toward fascism. And I'm asking you as a resident of this county, if it's presented to the board to make Alcona County a Second Amendment sanctuary county, I implore you, please vote it down. We have a U.S. Supreme Court that does the interpretation of the Constitution. We don't need it to locally elected officials, some who might be transients. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
Jeff Linderman, Oscoda Township, riparian in Cedar Lake. About 60 days ago, I sent in a letter and requested to be in front of this board, which thank you. You accepted my presentation and I gave it. It was concerning Cedar Lake Improvement Board, some questions I had. I came back 2 weeks ago and reiterated my interest in receiving answers. And I'm here today to just ask this board a time frame for answers that I submitted to those questions. We have a lake board meeting on the 27th of this month, and I'd like to update our board and our membership on it. And the second thing, today when I was down in Iasco County, I learned there was a meeting between the drain commissioners, Alcona and Iasco, in regards to Cedar Lake water level. Where can I find out what that was about? Because recent court ruling has a stipulation that the counties must maintain a legal level. So when they confer with Stacy Hassan, who was the drain commissioner's attorney, it's possibly that. So I would like to know if you can tell me why they had a meeting involving Cedar Lake water level and what it was about. And in the future, we would love to be included in any discussion involving Cedar Lake. Thank you.
Anyone else? Yes.
Good afternoon. I'm Margie Kutla from Haynes Township, and I'm part of the opioid committee presented and designed and chaired by Carolyn and Bill Thompson. And I just want to let you know that I am very pleased with the amount of background information and the people that are in support of and helping to get this funding dispersed to the people that really need it in our county. And again, I'm very impressed with what's happening, and I'm really proud to be on the committee. So I want to thank you all for being in support of that, and especially Carolyn and Bill Thompson. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Marty.
Anybody else? Yes.
Patty Thomas, Harrisville Township resident. And I spoke at the last meeting about our involvement with the COVID assessment, the money that the county gets to treat the severe problem in this country of opioid addiction. I personally have experienced the disaster of the opioid situation. I have a niece and nephew from San Francisco that both died from, I suspect unintended, but prescribed opioid treatment. My nephew was a bicycle messenger in San Francisco. He was hit by a truck, prescribed opioids to treat his, he had multiple fractures in a leg. He was at home for quite a while, and ended up taking more opioid than, or more of the prescribed medication than he should have, during a time that the government was shut down in 2018, and he was needing to have an appointment to extend his insurance claim. That didn't happen, and he went home and took some more pain medication. On the anniversary of his death, his sister was experiencing a severe migraine headache at work. She went home and also took probably too much. But both of them were victims of prescribed medication that contained opioids that was beyond human tolerance. In any case, my family has been personally very troubled by what has happened in this country, and I fully support the legal allotment of money to try to address the issue. And our group that has been meeting, I think we've had 4 different meetings, started out with a number of different county agencies that were interested in participating and coming up with a plan. I think there's a great plan that is being presented today, I hope, and I hope that the commissioners will choose to support it. One of the things that I have kind of stuck in my brain is opioid unintentional deaths are a permanent resolution to a treatable and temporary situation. So let's get anybody that needs help, the help that they need, so they can go on to be productive citizens, working, paying taxes, and helping their lives and the life of our community.
Thank you. Anybody else? Public comment? Anybody online, public comment? Okay, moving on. Mr. O'Connor, please.
No presentation today, figured I'd just give us some bullet points, it's kind of give you an overview of where we are and where we're hoping to move on to, and I know you guys have a lot of things on the agenda today, so we'll keep it as brief as possible. So first thing we've been involved in for pretty much the whole school year is revising our strategic plan. So that's been a process involving staff, students, community members, came up with the 5 focus areas on the sheet, so mental health and behavior, guaranteed and viable curriculum, standards of excellence, so that's kind of our pet project area, I would say, where we're really trying to stand out as a district, security, technology, and infrastructure, and then recruit, and actually that's retain, so not train, so training would be another category. So obviously right now in the employment climate, really vital to find good people, and then not only that, keep those good people in place. So those are our 5 focus areas for the next 4 years. There's about 72 action items and, spread across all those categories. So it's some big buckets, some small buckets, but all good things that will keep us moving in the right direction as we work our way forward. Capital projects is kind of a review. We had a update of the elementary playground. We had a really exciting boiler project at the middle high school that was unfortunately happened due to stacks falling on top of each other during a windstorm about a year and a half ago now. And we continue to tear out carpet in classrooms and replace that with polished concrete, better for the students. Carpet very old, and so it's long overdue to be replaced. So we have a few more classrooms to go. This summer, we have more polished concrete removal installation, boiler room piping. So that boiler room has a series of probably 4 different additions over the 60 or 70 years that it's been in existence. So a lot of unnecessary piping in that room that will help some efficiency now that the new boiler system is in. And we're hoping to remove some trees in the front of it. If you drove by front of the school after a storm, typically find about half dozen trees down, some large, some small. A lot of trees are rotting, so we're gonna have to try to carefully go about that because those trees are a passion point for a lot of people in the community that have been there for a long time, and they're very beautiful, but they're also not safe either at this point. So trying to figure out a plan moving forward there. Just a couple other topics as we move forward. So mental health and behavior is on, it's a hot topic around the country right now in terms of schools, and we've seen some regional schools really struggle navigating those situations. We're probably lucky that we've got the behavior supports in place to head off a lot of these. It's not perfect. There's students coming to us with a lot of needs, especially younger students that, are definitely in some different situations than what we would typically be used to. So some pretty significant challenges, but our staff stepped up and we've got some good things in place. There's constant mental health grants out there. So that's helped us get to 5 social workers, essentially to be able to have in the district to help our students. We threw our hat in the ring for another social workers. We have a retired one in the community that just moved to the area and is willing to come and help out. So we might as well continue to ask if we can get it. We're not going to turn it down. So good supports in place. And then we're looking to continue to narrow some of the definitions of behavior in our handbook to try to help guide those people that are working with those students to have some very specific interventions to deal with it, and then consequences, unfortunately, if we have to go that direction. So vaping is occupying a lot of time these days for principals and dean of students, unfortunately. So we're working to tackle that on a daily basis. Spent the last 3 months doing a deep dive into our facilities, and obviously those familiar with our buildings know that we've got a 60-year-old building that has had little renovation, and then an addition on that in the 70s that has had little renovation, and then an elementary building that's 30 years old that has had little renovation, and then a addition of a wing and the auditorium, the new gym and elementary library in 2000 that is in good shape. So that led us to a kind of a laundry list of things that we need to improve, from secure entrances to parking lots to boilers in the elementary building, secure entry systems into each building, a lot of windows and doors in a couple different locations, and that's just kind of the start of the list. So ended up obviously with like $45 million of improvements. That wasn't very hard to get to. So obviously we're not going to attempt to ask the community for $40 million because we know that that's going to be a very difficult thing to convince. But we do have a priority list of about $20 million that we feel like we flushed out, and that we're able to make a good dent in a lot of these things, and we'll put the district in really good shape long term. The board has not decided or put that on the ballot yet at this point, but they're strongly considering some asking the community potentially for any increase, and it'll be a new tax, unfortunately. And I know that's not a popular topic for anybody, and always difficult, especially in a time with inflation and different challenges. So we have a lot of work ahead of us in the next 6 weeks. We have to meet with Treasury and make sure they agree with our priority assessment and some of the estimates of costs that we kind of associated with it. If all goes well, we'll have an approval potentially in June if everybody's still on the same page, and it may be on the ballot in November. So that's kind of the timeline that we potentially may be looking at, but you know, it felt like it was not doing a service to the community by not telling our story and kind of showing where we are right now in terms of facilities. And I feel like we've done a really good job with sinking funds and grants and utilizing some of the ESSER funds that came from the government during COVID to try to make some necessary improvements along the way. There's no way to keep up with the aging facilities and building. So I will come to you with more information likely on that, you know, once it becomes official with maybe a little more articulated scope, but you know, it's been a good process to go through. Really came up with a solid plan and also a good solid sinking fund plan if this passes or this doesn't pass. So you kind of have two different versions of the way we could go if we have to, but we'll be sinking funding this for a very, very, very long time with the revenue that comes in. Unfortunately, if it isn't successful. Been fortunate enough to be part of a rural daycare study. And so RKIP, I think is the acronym, is a state organization that the AMA ESD collaborated with our district to write a grant just studying the availability of daycare in the area. And I think about a year ago, you had a presentation from a person on daycare and kind of a proposal. So their study was that Alcona County currently has 65 seats for daycare and it needs 265. And 3 of the providers that are left amongst the 5 are likely not going to be providing daycare within the next 3 years. So there's a huge problem, and you know, it's a problem with no money afterwards after the grant, other than to give you the data and let you admire some of the problems. So that's going to be a significant issue as we continue to try to support young families. I know, again, trying to get people in the workplace is all, you know, employers are struggling to find employees. There's a lot of parents that have chosen to stay home. These daycare costs are ranging between $125 to $200 a week for one child. So, you know, when you start comparing lower wage jobs to just staying at home, they have to make some tough decisions. So I suspect there'll be more conversation on daycare. We did create a strategic planning group with 5 goals. Actually finished it off today after we had a town hall last night with about 20 community members and some of the providers. We have some tangible goals, but again, a lot of that's going to be trying to chase funding and grants, and we're trying to figure out where the school's role is in this and, you know, kind of be supportive, but we also have these other 700 people that we're responsible for that we need to focus on too. So if anybody here might be interested in joining in that grant or just kind of hearing along the way what solutions we may come up with, there's a lot of work ahead, I would say. Couple other initiatives. We are bringing back alternative ed this school year. So starting next school year, we had a number of students exit and look for different solutions online, more flexible. They're not being successful in those settings, so it's up to us to step up to the plate and get something back together. So those that are familiar with the Blue House, it's across the street from the high school. That was formerly the alternative ed building. There's still 2 really good classrooms over there. Mr. Hubbard has confiscated one of those classrooms and is storing B materials in it right now. So we're going to use the other classroom as kind of our pilot to get all that back off the ground. So you'll see I have my marketing class working on a branding for it and a name for the program and a logo and a couple other things. And we'll get that in place, hopefully starting in the fall. Slight renovation of the one classroom could make it cool, you know, for the students that feel like they just need a different view on things. The goal is to have that be partial day online work, and not everybody's a fan of online work, but it's unfortunately it's just a necessary evil at this point. But and then the other half of the day, I haven't required it yet, but strongly encouraging work-based learning or career and technical education. And so they should be doing half and half and developing the employability skills to then be able to go out into the workplace or college. That's we're going to start with 10th through 12th grade. We went and visited 3 alternative buildings around the state, and you know, it's growing everywhere, unfortunately, and unfortunately it's happening younger and younger as some of the students, you know, display behaviors or make a really bad choice, you know, throwing out words or writing something on a wall. And so those settings are starting to be filled with like 6th graders and 7th graders, which is crazy. But you know, they're trying to figure out how to respond and how to offer that flexible environment. But thing is, you know, a lot of the students struggle with self-discipline, so the online learning is a huge challenge. So we've got 2 staff members that I would consider firm but fair and relationship experts, and so they're going to be the ones that are kind of going to tag team that building. And we're looking at a caseload, maybe a 10 or 15 students to start. We prefer not to go any higher than that. Just want to get it off to a good start and make sure we do do the right thing for those students too. So that is, that's gonna be an option moving forward. Our high school, middle school kitchen renovation is slated for next summer, barring crazy inflation problems. Again, we got a cost estimate for that renovation project, and I think it was $800,000 last fall. We've been working to scale it back because again, you're talking about a 1956 layout of the kitchen. So there's a lot of things that are gonna have to be redone in there, and piping is probably the most important in that area, and that's gonna take a lot of work to dig down in the infrastructure. And some layout improvements, and ventilation is a huge issue in that area. If you talk to any of the ladies that work in that space, they well, earlier this week and last week were pretty miserable in that space, so got to improve ventilation. GSRP, that's our preschool program, so we took that over from the NAESD a couple years ago as they were having trouble keeping it in the black, and so we ran it as a 16 slot preschool, and we're actually going to bump that up to 18 slots this year, which will give us a third person in that classroom, so help service, some more students, but I just got off a meeting with GSRP and their enrollment, and it's through the roof, which is a great thing, but there's a need for 32 slots, not 18, so there's gonna have to be some problem solving on figuring out what that looks like, because last thing we want is students that want to go to preschool not have access to that, and there was a 10-student waiting list this year, so a lot of challenges on that front. As I talked about, a lot of students coming to us at kindergarten or first grade, really unprepared, for the school setting. And so it's kind of posed a lot of significant challenges on different situations. Summer programming, so Inspirational Kona, I think Will might have reported out to this group a couple months back. They were able to write a $80,000 grant for tutoring after school during the school year, and then summer programming. So we'll have 3 weeks of summer programming in June, and then 3 in August. We're trying to take a different approach instead of just cramming academics down. We're going to have it be more of a fun, relaxed situation, focus on some social things, and trying to get students to get along, obviously, and work on maybe some of the beautiful things too, but try to have some fun with some art, some outdoor adventure, some team sport on different pieces. So a lot of hands-on fun stuff, and we only have 1 vacancy right now, so I'm not kind of wood somewhere about that, but we've been able to retain as of now a lot of our staff members, and so we're hopeful we're able to maintain that. We do have a wish to add a special education teacher, which will take 7, and then a second grade teacher, because class sizes at second grade are close to 60, and 30 second graders in the classroom is not always not a good idea. So we're gonna hope to space those students out a little bit, but our buildings are full. For those that probably were there in 08 or 09, or in that stretch where there's empty classrooms and spaces all over the place, we were jam-packed with those social workers and some interventionists and additional classrooms, and enrollment kind of at least flat, trending in the right direction in a positive way. So I feel like there's a lot of good things going on, and kind of exciting work that's outlined today. Any questions for me? Okay.
Good job.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I'll leave a couple over here if anyone wants to grab those on the way out.
Okay, Missy.
Fine. Hey, I am here today. I know it's middle of May, but in your board packets received the first quarter report for the Register of Deeds office. The numbers were all there. I will say everything is down slightly from last year, first quarter. It's not drastic, but there's some minimal decrease over overall business number of documents recorded and revenue that has been brought in. I will say though, over the last, I would say month, business has really started to increase in the office. Office seems to be quite a bit busier, a lot more phone calls, been quite influx of people coming in to transact business as well. So as far as other things on the board report go, our certificate of forfeitures that we received from the treasurer's office, we received those March 7th. We were able to complete those and return them to the treasurer by March 20th. So it took about 2 weeks to get through that process.
couple minor things, but worked with the treasurer's office to rectify everything, and we're able to record those in a timely fashion and move forward with the rest of our business, so. In January, I attended a webinar from Fiddler Technologies, and it was a webinar talking about their server, which is currently what our office uses. So they name all of their technology different things. They call it their Bastion server. I don't know what that means. But so anyways, they talked about the protection that's offered if you are utilizing their server. And I can tell you in 2019, when we transitioned from our former program to now what is through Fiddler Technologies, I did make the choice to utilize the server from Fiddler Technologies. But they talked a little bit about ransomware attacks. There are a couple of programs that are companies that are utilized with registered deeds offices that had been hacked last year, not their registered portion, but other. Some of them have clerk software, you know, they just have government software in general. So they talked a little bit about ransomware attacks and the importance of making sure that you have the protection there. So they did talk a little bit about their protection. The other thing is with their server, it eliminates the need for individuals who have subscription-based searching through the Register of Deeds office. So our title companies or abstractors who do business online and search from their home or their office, search our records. It offers them the ability to not have to go through the county server in order to access those records. So it gives a little bit of relief for our IT department as well. So they talked about places. So the company's headquarters is in Davenport, Iowa. Obviously, they have, you know, they do have servers there. They also have servers in Bettendorf, Iowa. And then they have a backup disaster recovery server in Altoona, Iowa. So each of those are spaced approximately 150 to 160 miles apart from each other and have a network segregation so that if something were to happen to one, what that network segregation does is block it from getting to the other. I mean, could it happen? But you know, I mean, I feel like the whole point of it was they wanted to assure us that they have multiple steps of protection in place. So it does make me feel good. I know a couple weeks ago, I was watching the news, I was getting ready for work and I almost had a moment of as I hear that Davenport, Iowa is flooding and then Bettendorf, Iowa is flooding. And I thought, oh, I hope I have computers when I get to work. And I did, they were working. So I had been absent, I think that Friday before, and apparently they went down for a short time, but were able to rectify that. So the girls assured me they were able to get back on and continue working. So I guess the other point of, you know, those servers being located away from here is if we were to ever have any disaster strike our county building, you know, as long as I could get a computer and internet access, we would be able to access our records that are on the computer. So just a nice assurance there. I spoke with you, I think, I don't know if it was in January or December regarding the passport camera and printer in the registrar's office. I mean, I had called that printer was pretty much obsolete, was told we really couldn't even get any parts for it if something were to happen. So it was time to move forward with a new photo system for passports. We did purchase a new camera and a printer in February. That was a trial and error to figure out how that all worked. Different lighting, different camera. Took us a few weeks. Finally got that nailed down. So We're now taking successful passport pictures with the new camera and printer. And the passport agency had instructed us, they assumed that there would be an increase in the number of passports we would be processing for the year 2023. And it does appear that that was probably an accurate statement. So as of today, we've completed 32 new applications this year and 39 photos. In a normal year, in years past, we would process approximately 45 passports over the year. So we've already reached over half of what we normally do. So the cost of that new equipment, it was around $2,800. Based on if we were to process 45 passports per year, we would come in just under the expense of purchasing that new camera. There's a $35 acceptance fee that's charged for any new passport coming through the office. So we do get a little bit of revenue from that. And then also passport photos, currently we're charging $10. We've done some research and it appears that everyone around us is charging $15. So I have put an effective date of June 1st and we'll increase that fee as well. We have also with Fiddler Technologies gone through a little bit of an upgrade for our online searchers. They've rolled out a new program and called Laredo Connect. And basically what it does is allows searchers who maybe search multiple counties with Fiddler Technologies to, it's a place where they can just link all of their accounts together. They can go on there, they can see how many minutes they've used in what county, just gives them some basic information on their actual account. Currently, Fiddler Technology partners with 38 counties in Michigan. So there are, you know, a few of our searchers do utilize the Laredo system in other counties as well as here. So this also allows them to view their invoices for the month. And then as I was going through my notes on a legislative update in regards to the Register of Deeds office, the remonumentation of corners in the county, that's been going on. I don't even know when it began. It was before I came to the county 10 years ago. So that actually was set to end and legislation did pass. So they will be extending that. So lane corners will continue to be remonumented throughout the county. And that is extended through the year 2043. Some of you may know that Daniel's Law passed in the Federal Defense Act, which is for federal judges and their family members to request shielding from public view. At this point, doesn't affect people here in Alcona per se, because we don't have a federal judge. But I do know that the Michigan Association of Register of Deeds will be anticipating that that may come to legislation on the state level, and they are looking to get ahead of it if it is taken up. Positive note, Fiddler Technologies, you know, they've seen this coming. They've been talking about it for a couple of years, anticipating that eventually it would get to this point. And they have already created programming to allow for the redaction of information if it should come to that, you know, and hopefully, I mean, if the association is able to get in front of it, we should be able to work with legislation to make it something that's hopefully a halfway feasible thing to deal with, should we need to. So if we do have to redact that information, I mean, that service or program is included with our life cycle account, and it wouldn't be an added fee to add that on. Then our for priorities for the Michigan Association of Register of Deeds this year, They do feel that it's possibly time to look at an enhancement of fees that are charged in the Register of Deeds office. So currently, if you were to purchase a copy of a document, it is $1 per page for any copies. So they are looking at that and possibly looking at transfer tax fees, which at point are for county $1.10 per $1,000, and that would be on conveyance, you know, with a sale price. So may see some increase in that. I don't anticipate that it would be, I mean, I don't anticipate anything this year, but it'll probably be something that that our committee works on for a short time to see if we can get something to come to fruition. In March, I attended conference, also took my deputy, which was great. We took away some really good information. There was topics on subdivision plat updates, disaster recovery, which that was kind of eye-opening, gave me a couple pointers of things that I have changed in the office, and also motivational speaker on building up people to sustain a positive culture. So the last thing I want to talk about is the plat preservation project. I know I emailed you information. I have been working with someone from CoFile Technologies. And I did bring some maps because I wanted to just show you the things that we'll be addressing. So for instance, you know, some of our maps are busted open, which allows for, you know, deterioration of the actual map inside. And then I brought the oldest plat map for the counties, which is the city of Harrisville, but if you just kind of touch the bottom edge there, let's see. Yeah. So it's kind of, I don't know if anybody else, but it's very sticky, yes, because that vinyl is breaking down. And then you can also see, I mean, there's tape marks on here. All this brown spotting is actual acid that's deteriorating that map. So, you know, with that preservation project, you know, this will be cleaned up. It'll be placed in a different envelope, which actually, when I went to see the Register of Deeds in Alpena, I mean, the map is inside something that's crystal clear, very easy to see, very nice. So I didn't know if any of you have further questions on that. I do plan to move forward with the first phase of the project. And
The restoration.
well, the total project amount,
Well, and also. Mitigators, grant money.
well, so what I would like to do, or what I'm planning to do, is split the project into two parts. One part to be completed this year, and that portion would be about $20,000. That would cover approximately just under half of the maps that are located in the office. I do plan to utilize funds from the Register of Deeds Automation Fund. So nothing from the general fund budget. So next year when I budget, you know, I feel I can budget appropriately. I'm not going to ask the commissioner or the board for the entire amount of the project, but there may be a portion of it that, you know, I would like to budget in to help cover the expense, as I don't feel I'd be able to cover the entire expense next year as well. So if there's any other questions. Right, thank you very much.
Thank you. Next up, the opioid community funding request.
Well, you'll go first if you want. Sure.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for that.
I distributed to, all of you a 2-page document, and I think that I made one on both. That will indicate. And I appreciate kind words of Marty and, Patty also. The committee has
as you, if you recall, it was open to the entire community. It is tapered down. We have 7 diehards, bless their hearts. Melissa Farman, Jennifer Lewick, Bill Thompson, Martin Gutierrez, Patty Thomas, Tom Michael, and myself. This month, we're actually meeting 3 times. We started meeting back in, I believe, August, with our first community meeting. And what we bring to you today on the top of the cover page is the amount that you have already approved, the 15,810, which leaves us with a new balance as of last week, or 2 weeks ago, of 39,005. We would like to, we bring to you today a request for authorization, and you'll see in the motion, the lower half of the page, move to approve utilization of up to $30,000 of Fund 284, which is the opioid fund, for construction costs of the nest. Recall, Zach Williams gave us a presentation on the zest on the nest, and we had about 8 folks that came out and did tour the nest a week ago. The second page is an estimate of work order. The estimated costs, and some of those we actually have as firm costs, but these are being done by licensed builders, by contractors, electric, plumbing, and so on that do have their certifications, and everything is being done according to Hoyle. It would take a little bit before we utilize the entire 30, but we don't know if a $10,000 bill is going to come in next week, or maybe an 8,000. And I think running back and forth for specific ones is inappropriate and a waste of your time and kind of unnecessary, since you do have a committee to handle that. I would also say where it indicates may not be used 10,800. That is 5,800 from the drug court assessments. Although we allotted 10,800, as they've moved forward, they think this year they probably won't really be using much more than 5,000. So that leaves us with an additional 5,800. Also, we are hesitant to be saying that Sunrise is going to ask for the scholarship. But I mean, we have it there, but we do think that 10,800 may not be used, or parts of it may not be used. And that allows us to ask for the 30,000 for the nest. The nest is extremely beneficial, and it's really the last tool that there would be available for someone who is coming out of rehabilitation and is coming out of drug rehab situation. Part of the problem is they go through their therapy, they go through all of that, and then they come out from for instance, it might be Sunrise. Where do they go? They have no place to go, except that from whence they come, and from whence they come is where they got the drugs originally. So if we can provide them a drug-free house where there is guidance still there and support from one another, this increases the opportunities for them to become strong, better citizens, drug-free citizens, than if we let them go back. If they go back to where they came from, they're going to be back in the drug program pretty quickly. So there's a lot of effort that is put into this before they would get to this recovery house. They've got their residential, and then they've got others, drug court and then residential usually. And everybody on the panel, Tom is extremely, and Jennifer both, they see them more than I do, certainly more than anybody else, most everybody else on that committee. They feel it would be extremely beneficial. They're optimistic about this. And when this gets up and running, when the nest gets up and running, the goal and aim then is to develop a female recovery house. So it's just one step in addressing that. So with that, I will be happy to answer any questions. If there aren't any, I would move to approve utilization of up to $30,000 of Fund 284 for construction costs of the nest. The nest is a recovery house.
Okay. Moving seconded. Questions or comments?
And since you weren't able to make it sure, I'd be happy to set up another time so you could go down. See it. There are about 8 people that came.
Well, we're ready for roll call then.
Yax,
Yes.
Small,
Yes.
Brumman,
Yes,
Reggie.
Yes.
thank you very, very much. The committee thanks you, and they'll never know the people who will end up resigning, and so to speak, they don't really graduate, but moving on to better lives. That will be better for all of us.
Very good.
I do have a question. Excuse me, so you're reducing these projects and
Pardon?
turning it, you're adding another project? of
Yes,
30,000?
and I will submit that.
Okay, thank you.
We didn't have enough confirmation to do it last time.
Okay, then we will move on to the annual report from MSU.
Okay. Hello, I'm Julie Darton. I'm the district director for Michigan State University Extension District 4, which includes Alcona County. In fact, you're my most northeast county in this district. But we are a statewide organization, so Alcona County has access to not only the resources of the university, but the resources of our statewide network of educators and the nationwide network of land-grant universities that are working to serve people across the country. So firstly, I thought it would be helpful for everyone to just briefly, I'm not going to read the report to you, you have it. So I've outlined some other things to focus on, how we work and how we are funded as an organization. So firstly, we're part of the university structure. We're actually a unit within the College of Agriculture and Natural Resources at the university. And we work closely with faculty, not only in that college, but in other colleges. Increasingly, we're looking at partnerships with the College of Education, the College of Communication Arts and Sciences at Michigan State, and then those networks of researchers. But how we're funded is a partnership between the federal government, state government, and local government. And here in Alcona County, like in some other counties here in Northeast Michigan, we're supported by a dedicated millage for our services. And that helps us to expand beyond the minimum level of service that we can provide here in Alcona County. So I want to thank you all and thank the residents and taxpayers of Alcona County for that support. It really does make a huge difference in the way we work. So the money that we pull in from our from the millage helps us to pay a secretary who works about 75% of an FTE in our office, so making sure that we can work with the public. It helps support our 4-H program coordinator position, and it helps us with office supplies and other things that we need. And on a broader level, Alcona County has the advantage of having a dedicated educator who, although her work is also influences things statewide and impacts people statewide, she makes sure that a dedicated portion of her time is spent right here in Alcona County. The federal funding we receive comes from the United States Department of Agriculture. So it comes through the National Institute of Food and Agriculture, which supports a lot of different programs and specifically supports efforts to educate people who receive food assistance benefits or SNAP benefits in our communities. So SNAP benefits are allocated to people who have a need, and sometimes that need is because they have income, sometimes that need is because they have disability and cannot work. So, you know, it's a broad swath of people across our communities that can be eligible. And on a statewide basis, 1 in 7 roughly people is eligible for food assistance benefits, and it varies based on different locations. And statewide, we have a dedicated line item in the budget of the state of Michigan, specifically for Michigan State University Extension. We don't receive tuition dollars from the university. We're funded separately. And obviously, there is some overlap. So faculty could be supported partly by those university tuition dollars, but also by funding that comes through the governor's budget or through the budget that's approved by the state legislature. So how do we operate? We try to learn as much as we can about the needs of our community and the communities that we serve. We have people who live in communities that we talk to regularly. Our staff live in these communities, and we use that to help us understand what the needs are. We also are learning from researchers based on campus or our network of researchers that really work across the world about what are things that we anticipate needing to know and how are we responding to those things in community. And we've done that for more than 100 years in the state of Michigan. We deliver our programs directly to people in person, but increasingly we deliver those programs also at a distance. We utilize the phone, we utilize computers, we utilize Zoom, much as the commissioners do here, to encourage people who cannot be here physically to be able to be part of what is going on here. And we're doing hybrid engagement as well. So this is a hybrid meeting. You have people here in person and you have people who are also attending virtually. And then I've provided you with an example of one of our hotlines that we have. So we have a food safety hotline. We have a hotline for lawn and garden questions. People can call in and leave a message and someone will call them back to give them an answer. And we have online tools, one of which is called Ask Extension. People can call into our office, and if we can't answer the question, we can suggest that they submit the question to Ask Extension, or we can submit it on their behalf. We know that not everybody utilizes a computer, but for those who do, this can be a really easy way. So, and you might be thinking, why do we need this in the age of Google? Well, even in the age of Google and apps and things like that, things are happening here specifically in Alcona County that are unique to Alcona County, or they may not be happening in the same way that they're happening in other parts of the world, but we have people who can help us identify plants, pests, things like that, and figure out how to respond. So just as I've been sitting here in your meeting, there have been a number of things that I thought like, oh, we probably have a resource that can help with that. For example, the health of the trees at the school campus. That is something that Extension could help with. And I'll talk to Dan about how we can help him with that. The opioid crisis that's happening in our country. We are engaging that problem in a number of ways. One is we're not necessarily doing drug treatment, but we're talking with caregivers who have family members who've been affected about how they can utilize some resources that can help them to cope with the needs of caregivers in those situations. We also have diversionary educational programs that can help people deal with chronic pain issues, one of which is called Personal Actions Toward Health. And it can be utilized for a number of different chronic conditions that people may experience, where individuals are empowered to make goals around their own health and then track how they're doing and break it down into smaller steps. So for example, someone with diabetes might prioritize, say, I want to reduce my A1C. So what are the things I need to do in my life that will do that? There's lots of changes that can influence that. Maybe they say, for example, well, I'd like to make sure I eat a breakfast high in protein every day. That's one thing I'm gonna try to do to reduce my A1C. So this program would teach people how to make those goals and how to track their progress toward those goals and how to celebrate progress that they make for those goals. And because it's not necessarily just diabetes education, you can have people who are taking that class who have different chronic conditions that they need to address. And those kinds of programs are things that we teach on a statewide basis. So within the work that we do with Extension, we're probably best known for two things. One is our 4-H programs. So I want to share with you today that we have hired a program coordinator for our 4-H program. Her first day is June 5th. And she is from Alpena County. She's a 4-H alumna, and she is really excited to start. Her name is Stephanie Domke, and she grew up on a sheep farm. She was very involved with 4-H in her growing up years, and she is very excited to be starting, and we are very excited to have her. So she will be getting things going. Our 4-H program engages adult volunteers who can become an additional caring adult in a child's life to lead projects, clubs, events, things like that. So right now is the time of year when kids are registering for Camp Akiak. We have kids who are filling that program up. We have Exploration Days, which is happening on Michigan State's campus near the end of next month in June. And I'll be honest with you, we did not promote Exploration Days as much as we had in the past. We have a small number of students who are, or youth who are participating in that program. We hope to grow that. We hope to see that number really expand, because we know that youth can really benefit from being exposed to a college campus and experiencing life on a college campus. And then here in Alcona County, we're very proud of the partnership we have with Alcona Community Schools. So we have a makerspace in the elementary school. We're very involved with projects that are happening at the school. And Tracy D'Agostino, who is our educator in children and youth, who has a specific passion for project-based and problem-based and place-based educational programs, dedicates, most of her Fridays. She's at the elementary school. Numbers of students from classes rotate in and out of that makerspace, and they get a chance to try some hands-on things, maybe sometimes with guidance, maybe sometimes just having the opportunity to try things out, try things on. We're still doing book giveaways here in Alcona County. I had the opportunity to do one at the end of March, and honestly, I recommend giving books away to kids. It's like the most fun I've had in so much time. I had all these books set up, and I don't know why, I'm not a shy person, but I was sort of waiting to see how the program would develop. And a parent, maybe a grandparent, approached me and said, "Are you selling these books?" And I said, "No, every kid who's at this program tonight can take a book home with them." And then the deluge started, filtered in, and every age of kid was able to take a book away with them. I was sort of like selling free things to them, but it was very exciting to say, "Hey, you might like this book. This looks like a good book." So very, very fun for me to experience that and to help keep that program alive here in Alcona County with the elementary school. We're also the second thing we're most well known for, and the thing that really started extension programs nationally, are our programs for agriculture and agribusiness. We continue to serve producers in Michigan who are working in every phase, every kind of development of agriculture. So we serve animal agriculture across the state. We serve the floriculture and horticulture industries, and we serve vegetable and fruit farmers and field crop farmers. So that is not unique to Alcona County, and those programs are available and accessible. Here in this region, there's a lot of beef raised, specifically some sheep farming that happens. We connect those producers to understand how they can be more profitable, how they can raise healthy animals, how they can deal with human resources challenges, how they can have developed their business in a way that will support them economically And even to deal with some of the thorny issues that might arise, like business succession for a family farm. You know, who's going to take over the family? Is someone going to take over the family farm? And how do you value that farm so that the retirement savings that is captured in this non-liquid asset can be shared in such a way that it doesn't cost the kids a ton of money to buy out the parents, and the parents can actually feel like we can retire. We don't have to, we don't have to die at the tractor wheel. We can keep this thing alive, we can keep it going. And we do that with educators that meet one-on-one increasingly with farmers. So that's still an important thing that we do. And our health and nutrition programs, I talked a little bit about SNAP education and how that federal dollars, where those federal dollars come from. Michelle Luttrell is the nutrition educator, community nutrition instructor who serves both Alcona County and Iosco County. And she is here in the schools doing curriculum delivery. Usually it's a 6-week series that talks specifically to the issues that youth might experience or the ways in which they're understanding, calories in and calories burned, including how to have physical activity every day that they enjoy or regularly that they can enjoy. Michelle's done some coaching as well here at Alcona with the lunchroom. And there's a program right now in the elementary school that I overheard Principal Lee talking to the food service staff about, called Try It Fridays, where kids get a chance to taste something they've never tasted on a Friday and they can say whether they like it or not. And so without them even clocking that I was overhearing them say this, they're like, why did the kids taste this week? Oh, they really liked it. So we know that it's an opportunity for kids maybe in a supportive environment to say, why don't you try this? You should maybe taste something you've never tasted before. And then we have health programs that focus on health across the lifespan. So I talked a little bit about personal action toward health, but in addition to that, we have a program called Relax, which teaches people how to, when they encounter a situation that triggers an angry response, how can they move beyond that? It's not necessarily anger management, but it's sort of diversion. So how can I respond? How can I understand myself better to know when I'm going to have a response, and how do I mitigate that response from impacting other people? We teach mindfulness programming, and there's a lot of ways that mindfulness has become kind of a buzzword, but it does have an impact on helping people deal with stressful situations in their lives, helping people to be in touch with their own well-being and center them in moments of challenge and things like that. And we teach a class called Matter of Balance and Tai Chi. And that's really a program that we know older adults love. And we do that both in person and virtually. So that's slow, gentle movement that it helps people to avoid falls, helps people to make sure that they are maintaining their balance throughout their aging. And then finally, we have programs that relate to community development and Great Lakes stewardship. Obviously, that Northeast Michigan Great Lakes Stewardship Initiative is doing a lot of programs about, living on the shoreline and engaging with that. And our Sea Grant educator is based in Alpena County, but he's a resident of Alcona County. So Alcona is not overlooked at all, because Brandon Schroeder wants to make sure that people know about the resource that is Lake Michigan that's right here, and how to keep it healthy and how to keep it going. So the partnerships that Nemiglissi has to keep teachers involved in understanding stewardship and engaging youth in some problem-based and project-based learning. If you've been to Harrisville State Park, you've seen the work that they're doing to create a bioswale, sort of a rain garden. That is designed by kids, and it's being built right now. So the high school students at Alcona Community Schools are very much engaged with that. So I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have about anything that's going on, or ways that Michigan State University can provide a resource or answer a question in your community. And I'm not sure if Michelle wants to talk about the work that she's doing currently locally. She's also working with childcare providers to have them get fresh fruits and vegetables that they can feed to the kids in their childcare centers. She's working with Alcona Health Centers, or has worked with Alcona Health Centers, to help low-income people get additional vouchers that can help them buy fresh fruits and vegetables. So we've got lots of really positive projects here. And when I talk to people about Alcona County or Alcona Community Schools, I talk about a small community that has big ambitions. And I think that's the way that I really frame the work that we're doing. For these communities in Northeast Michigan, the desire to know more, to have resources for kids or for yourself or for your business, those needs are not small. So if we can connect with university resources to help, that's what we're interested in doing.
Any questions? Thanks for the presentation.
Thank you.
We'll move on to claims. If you would, David.
Sure. I'd like to make a motion to approve pre-authorized claims and open claims presented for payment between 5/3/2023 and 5/17/2023 for check numbers 150,687 to 150,805 and e-check numbers 2115 to 2124 for a grand total of $295,855.33.
Moved and seconded. Questions, comments, concerns? Roll call please.
Reggie,
Yes.
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 Brumman,
Yes.
Small.
Yes.
Next up is the legal services budget amendment.
Requested a transfer from 101.90 to 101.101 and the amount of $17,000.
I will second. Any further discussion, comments? Roll call please.
Brumman,
Yes.
Reggie,
Yes.
Small,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
Next is the Caledonia Township Savage rezoning request. What do you know about this, Dave?
I don't know a lot about this one. There was another one that came in. I will contact Cindy Apsey about it.
Is there any pressure on you to get this approved quickly, or?
No, I talked to her yesterday and she never even mentioned this.
Okay. Well, then we'll let us do the standard 30-day auto approval,
Yep.
unless anybody has any
Thanks.
issues, then they can bring it up.
I will talk to her tomorrow and we can see if there's anything that as a county we want to look at.
Okay. That brings us to the finance reports. We have a meeting today, talked about some issues. We have feedback on when the report from the audit should be available to us.
We're scheduled for presentation on the 21st of June.
Thank you. Other than that. That's it for me. What do you got? Anything extra, Dave?
No, I'm fine with it. It's true.
All right, moving on to personnel.
We're just setting up some dates to begin talking to the. That's basically all I got today.
Okay. Very good. Treasurer's report, please.
I have the cash balances made, there's one on the bottom, probate public guardian, you do have that allocated, I was just looking for acknowledgement to go ahead and take care of that. They're running in the red right now, $1,500, looking at, just need to move that money, get that allocation completed. Other than that, just kind of daily business, we're working on one claim for last year's sale, and that was all that was done, and so that's in the process. And that's all I have. If anyone has any questions, we are running in the red as per normal, unfortunately, but a lot less than it has been in the past. For the funding, we are considering, there's been a huge undertaking with the Huron Community Bank, which is where the majority of our funding is. They changed their computer system, their online and their banking systems. We're waiting patiently for those little hiccups to get ironed out. It's quite a change for everyone, and so we're just kind of holding on for another few weeks here to see how it's gonna pan out. And I'm sorry, I didn't leave you any opportunity to answer any questions.
No questions for me. Anybody else?
I think you said something about the claims on the tax. What's the number as far as up and down? Are they both the same as last year? Or?
The claims, we had one filed for a claim last year and one this year. So this is the new process that just came through that was approved 2 years ago from with the changing of the law for the foreclosure. So we've had one individual file a claim.
As far as foreclosures, are we up, down?
We are down we have 11 at this point. No.
August 8th is when they.
We have an August sale date. I don't know the exact. But there are also a few processes that have to go through. We have first right of refusal from the townships, and then we have to explore the state of Michigan to see if there's anything viable that they would want. So we do a little research on our end. Because they do have the first right of refusal as well as the county for any properties. So there's not really going to be a final list until we generally start in June and do the research, and then we have our title company come out and secure any buildings and take pictures and upload to the website the tax info, what tax-sale.info website. Sorry. And so it's going to be an online sale as I have done in the past. Few years.
Okay, thank you. Clerk's report.
I was just looking for your approval or knowledge and how you'd like me to handle the transferring of funds that have been allocated for those different departments. If you want it done through finance, I can send a request to finance, or if you want a board decision, they've been allocated in the budget to probate, public guardian. And if however you want me to handle those allocations to different departments. When they're as necessary, or if there's a different approach, if you want them all doled out at the beginning.
I think whatever you recommend.
Okay. And that'll be handled, and I'll send you information.
Thank you. Clerk's report.
Well, the county lawsuit jury trial has been pushed back to November. We're going to be sending out jury questionnaires again. It's that time of year. 1,600 will probably go out in the mail next week. Those are for the 23-24 year term. We also received the workers' compensation renewal invoice, and our premium has decreased $1,091 this year due to improvement on the county's loss experience. So that's all I have.
There's several communications in your packet, cruise at your leisure. We got a committee reports.
I attended the CNH meeting and township meetings. And I'd like to bring forward. Not sure how to do it, but proclamation for police work, police week, I believe, it's all this, and this week. To recognize our law enforcement, prosecutor, and each. Sure just how it's officially done, but we'll make it.
So you're making a motion to have a proclamation to declare. Yes, support for,
Yes.
what's it called?
Police week.
Police week. Police week.
To recognize our deputies and the prosecutor's office.
Sergeants.
Sheriff, under sheriff, prosecutor and his office and staff, and of course the court system. It's all part of it.
Support.
Please support. Would you like to support it?
I don't have to support.
All right, we're moved and seconded. Any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion carries.
That's all I have.
What you do?
A couple of township meetings this last week. I think Alcoa Township. They have a new ordinance against advertising for Airbnbs. It's pretty contentious. I see both sides of it, but it's a $500 fine now. They're caught advertising on Airbnb. I was at the,
Advertising
yes,
or
advertising for an
any
Airbnb
place.
in Alcoa Township.
So if I put it, I won't go there.
It-
I'm sorry.
All right, I was at the Northern Michigan Association of Counties meeting. And we had our update from our lobbying group, all the things going on in the state. There's a lot of things changing and working. I think I explained, I talked some of it. One of the big things is there is septic tank legislation that is pending. It is going to happen this year. We're working to get how often it's inspected. They're recommending every 5 years that everyone's septic tank is inspected. I don't know how it's all gonna work and how they're gonna get the funding for it. But we'd like to see exemptions for like brand new homes and maybe 10 years. It's not a matter if it's gonna happen, it's gonna happen this year. And then they have some aggregate legislation. Pretty much the state wants to take control from the local townships and counties. And they want to take over where they can dictate and say where they can have gravel pits, sand pits.
We've been fighting that for quite a while.
Well, it's already happening. That way, if they have a project that they want, that they need aggregate, it doesn't matter what the community thinks. It's gonna happen. So those are probably the two big, there were several, but those are probably the two of the bigger things that are happening in state legislation right now.
Okay. Thank you.
All that I'm doing. In opposition to the gravel.
It was 16 or 17, I don't remember. Well, the septic one too.
Yeah, the second one.
They have the votes for it. They already said, it's just right now we're trying to negotiate whether it's 5 or 10 years. And whether you get an exemption for a new home. Since that you go through the health department and it's all up to trade, why would you have to have that?
You cannot get it. Can you get it done from a private contractor?
Well, if you have to repair anything
It's a test.
new, it's gonna be all probably done through the health department.
They don't find you what they do.
Well, they have a lot of things they want, and they have their wish list,
Stand in line.
and they're realizing that things are being cut. Right.
You're fighting
It's-
Congress, I mean, and the governorship, but.
In the state legislature, but when we do, okay, so there's two issues where we wrote a letter and so on. And obviously it's not doing any good, but you can't stop. You gotta keep fighting, the ones where there still is a possibility, you gotta, and it's not a fight, it's a matter of what's good for our people and our county.
Well, they also talked about this, the solar movement, and you know, they didn't like, there's a lot of them there, it's both sides, but they want to discourage people from taking farmland and farming and putting into solar.
But ideally, that nice flat farmland, it makes a nice solar farm, unfortunately.
Anything else? All right.
Anyone good news?
Yeah, right. The Consumers Energy is gonna be doing a tree trimming project. In their Lincoln Mankato circuit, Guston Township, Perishville Township, especially the north half of the circuit there, so be on the lookout for this stuff. You are warned. That's basically all I have for committee reports. How about you, Carolyn?
Before I did actually the typical committee reports, I do want to indicate Rob Shepherd, who is a builder here in Alpine County. I've been trying to get a banister over at Harbortown on the steps, a railing going up. We've been trying for 4 years. It's such a little tiny job, nobody wanted to do it. And of course, we really need to have somebody who was willing to do it. I called him again Monday, I think it was, and said, Rob, I still don't have a bill from you. And he said, Carolyn, he said, I really want to just donate that. Time and energy put it up and the railing itself. And so I'm most appreciative, and he will be getting a letter, just of appreciation for doing that. 211 had their full board meeting in Midland yesterday afternoon. I continue to review their invoices. I did a tour of the nest, and I attended Greenbush Township's board meeting. Did not make the cater. I didn't get back from Midland soon enough last night. We've had other routine committee and so on, and just a few meetings for contacting and so on, meetings for the opioid stuff that we're trying to move forward on. So that's about all.
Okay. Then we have our last section of public comment, 5 minutes. Identify yourself and your township. Anybody in house? Anybody online? Oh, I'm sorry. You're hiding behind Carolyn.
Hi, Marjorie Sarah from Haynes Township. Just a word on the septic issues. Michigan is one of the very few states that does not have any state regulation on septic systems. And when you think about it, so many people live on small inland lakes, on the large lake, and all that sewage. There should be some control of some kind. But like you said, you know, there will always be exceptions to the rule. But I think this is a good thing when you consider the amount of old septic systems that are still being used. It would, you know, as long as the fines for certain things are not too egregious, I think that's a good thing. And another note I wanted to make about the MSU Extension Service is when we had all that gypsy moth, there's problems. I mean, on our property alone, we lost almost every pine tree and almost lost oak trees. And the MSU Extension Service, we went there, Googled them, found a way what we could do in the future to prevent that, because that is going to be a recurring issue. 60 miles. Another thing I wanted to talk about was the school presentation. I went to their last board meeting, and it was so exciting to be part of a meeting where things are happening, and it's the youth are promoting these things to happen. Alcona Schools is doing a great job in my estimation, and unfortunately, it comes also with this bond issue they're considering. When you think about it, part of the school was built 1950s. So yes, there's going to be infrastructure, and I'm hoping when they get around to itemizing the things that they're going to need, that the commission will support that, because that is a huge part of our community. And I think that's all that I can say. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, then we will, additional comments, everybody? No?
I do,
Oh,
I
everybody.
want to acknowledge the passing of Bill Hastings. Bill was a commissioner here for a few years, for 2 terms or 3 terms, I'm not sure. And the one thing I will always remember about Bill, I haven't teased him about it since he stopped being a commissioner, but we would be in the middle of a discussion on something that from his perspective was trivial. And he'd lean back in his chair and say, well, I've got bigger fish to fry than this. And sometimes it would bring us a little more around to consensus, but sometimes not. But Bill was a wonderful commissioner. He was a wonderful Alcona County resident. And some of you may know he was very active in carving cane for veterans. Did a super great job on that. And so we wish him a safe trip to heaven.
We also should want to mention Judge Blair.
Okay.
I didn't know him was good, so please go ahead.
He was an attorney here and then became a judge. Judge Dwyer, because he handled my divorce. I just now look at that. Oh dear, I'm sorry, Judge. I'm sorry. He was he did a lot. They used to live in Greenbush, and then they moved up onto the lake here in Harrisville. He and his wife were active within the community, particularly in Harrisville. They cared a lot for it. It was a very nice gentleman.
He handled my daughter's adoption and my divorce.
Oh, did he? That's on a little better note.
At least
He
half.
loved to sail. He was a sailor. He loved to sail. So he will be missed. And his wife Nancy is delightful lady.
Anything else?
Thank you.
Do you have anything to do with like the USDA approved facilities or having like animals being able to be sold to commercially around here? I've heard different farmers saying it's so hard and
Oh,
it's expensive and so far away to.
for like inspections
Yes,
of
to get
meat
certified.
processing. We have a product center. It's called the MXP Product Center, and it will coach people on how to develop a business that meets those guidelines. We don't necessarily do the inspection, but we can help individual entrepreneurs navigate that process. It is costly, but we've also part of a network. MSU has something called the Center for Regional Food Systems, which was working on mobile processing, because you don't necessarily need to have a fixed resource around meat processing. You can have something that would do, periodic processing, and that exists in other places. Other states have state level inspection for meat processing. Michigan does not have that. But there are some processes in direct to consumer sales For poultry, for example, those can be processed, if you have a flock under 1,000, you can process, for example, chickens. But for beef and pork, you do need to have a licensed and inspected USDA facility in the state of Michigan, so.
You're talking about when you sell to.
If you're, if you're selling to
A restaurant,
a restaurant, or if you're packaging for sale,
yes,
yes, you absolutely do.
that's I've heard several
Yes.
times with this, you know, especially you say that's what we're doing in a small area that.
Yeah. You can, so for example, when people buy animals at the fair and take them to be processed, if that meat is for their own use, they don't have to, it doesn't have to be an inspected processor. It just has to be, someone who has a facility where they can manage that through us. Yeah. We can talk more about it if you have questions, or if you know someone that needs help, let me know.
Okay, then we'll. During the meeting? Yes. Okay. Meeting during until June 7th.
Okay, I just wanted to give this.
This makes it ass, like.
I like your text. I've got it already. I didn't have to see it if you want that one.
Before you get your off, there was- oh, yeah.
No, I.
What's that?
Because then I got that.
Yeah, I just, I had a lot of.